Rain poured down like the sky itself was crying that morning, washing the cracked sidewalks and weary faces of the city in silver streaks. Ethan Powell ran through the streets clutching his worn-out briefcase, his heart pounding not just from the sprint, but from the weight of what this day meant. It wasn't just any job interview, it was the interview. After years of rejection, endless night shifts, and barely keeping his young daughter fed, this was his one chance to finally build a stable life. The clock was ticking toward 9 a.m. If he could just make it there in time, everything could change, but fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. Halfway down the block, just as the towering office building came into view, a faint cry pierced through the rain. Ethan slowed, scanning the empty sidewalk. There, near the corner, a frail old woman lay motionless, her groceries spilled, an umbrella snapped beside her. Cars sped past, people rushed by, no one stopping. She was gasping, clutching her chest, whispering for help that no one seemed to hear. Ethan froze for a second, torn between destiny and decency. His heart screamed go, but his soul whispered stop. 30 seconds of hesitation. Then he made his choice. He threw down his briefcase, scooped the trembling woman into his arms, and ran, rain soaking through his shirt, lungs burning, legs screaming, for the nearest hospital 3 blocks away. That if you believe that kindness and second chances can still change lives, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because what happens next will remind you that compassion never goes unnoticed. Ethan burst through the hospital doors, shouting for help. Nurses rushed forward, wheeling the woman onto a gurney, attaching monitors, calling for oxygen. He stood there, soaked, panting, watching as they took her away. For the first time that morning, the reality of what he'd done hit him. His shirt was clinging to his skin, his shoes squelched, and his briefcase, his one professional lifeline, was still lying somewhere on the wet street. He checked his phone. 9:18 a.m. He was late. Hopelessly, irreversibly late. He sank into a plastic chair in the waiting area, head in his hands. All he could think of was his little girl, Lily, 7 years old, waiting at home with her backpack patched in 3 places and shoes 1 size too small. She had hugged him before he left that morning, whispering, "Good luck, Daddy. We're gonna be okay, right?" He had smiled, promising her a better life. Now that promise felt shattered. After what felt like forever, a nurse approached, smiling gently. "She's stable now. You saved her life." Ethan nodded, too dazed to reply. He left quietly, walking back through the rain, each step heavier than the last. The office building loomed ahead, but his reflection in the glass doors looked nothing like the man who'd prepared for weeks. His tie was gone, his clothes soaked, his hope drained. Still, he went inside. Maybe, just maybe, someone would hear him out. That he tried to explain to the receptionist, voice trembling, but the polite smile and scripted apology were all he got. "I'm sorry, sir. The interview panel has already concluded for today." He stood there, helpless, watching the elevator doors close on the life he might have had. That night, Ethan sat by the window of his tiny apartment, staring at the rain again. Lily was asleep on the couch, hugging her stuffed bear. He whispered to himself, "Maybe this is who I am, a man who helps others but never helps himself." But deep down, something in him refused to regret his choice. The next morning, a knock startled him. He opened the door to find a sharply dressed man in a gray suit. "Mr. Ethan Powell?" the man asked. "I'm from Grayson Industries. Mr. Grayson would like to see you immediately." Ethan blinked in disbelief. Grayson Industries? That was the very company whose interview he missed. He arrived at the towering glass building once more, heart pounding. The receptionist, the same one from yesterday, looked up with wide eyes. "Oh, Mr. Powell, they're expecting you. Please, go right in." He was led into a vast office overlooking the city. Behind a sleek mahogany desk sat Richard Grayson, the CEO, a man known for his ruthless efficiency and iron reputation. Yet his expression, as he looked at Ethan, was not cold. It was something else, something softer. "Mr. Powell," Grayson began, his deep voice calm but firm. "Yesterday, you missed your interview. My staff told me why." Ethan swallowed, unsure what to say. "You carried a 75-year-old woman to the hospital," Grayson continued, standing slowly. "That woman was my mother." Ethan froze. The room fell silent except for the ticking of a distant clock. "She told me about you," Grayson said, his eyes glistening just slightly. "She said you didn't hesitate, that you chose to save her without knowing who she was or what it might cost you." He walked closer, extending his hand. "I've built my life on hiring people who fight for success. But maybe what this company really needs are people who fight for what's right. The position is yours, if you'll still take it." Ethan's throat tightened. For a moment, words failed him. He shook the CEO's hand, tears mixing with disbelief. "Thank you, sir," he finally whispered. That day marked the beginning of a new chapter. Ethan didn't just get the job, he thrived. His honesty, compassion, and hard work quickly made him one of the company's most trusted managers. He moved into a small but cozy home with Lily, where laughter replaced the echoes of struggle. Sometimes he'd visit Mrs. Grayson, the woman whose life had intertwined with his by fate. They'd sit in her garden, sipping tea, sharing stories of lost chances and new beginnings. She called him the son I never had. Months passed, and one afternoon, as he walked home from work, he saw a man collapse near the bus stop. Without thinking, Ethan rushed to help. The man looked up, weakly smiling. "You're the guy from the news, aren't you? The one who saved that old lady." Ethan chuckled softly. "Just someone who was lucky enough to be in the right place." He helped him up, not for the praise, but because kindness had become part of who he was. Because sometimes, the smallest act of compassion creates ripples we can't see. Ripples that find their way back to us when we least expect it. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to help spread more stories of kindness, hope, and humanity. Every small gesture of support helps keep these stories alive. And before you go, tell us in the comments, would you have made the same choice as Ethan that day? Because in the end, what defines us isn't the moments of success. It's the moments when we choose kindness, even when no one's watching. Ethan Powell's story reminds us that life has a strange way of rewarding those who lead with their hearts. What he thought was the worst day of his life became the turning point that changed everything. And as he tucked his daughter into bed each night, watching her sleep peacefully in a home filled with warmth, he'd whisper the same words he once doubted. "We're gonna be okay." And they truly were.